Contractors, are you frustrated that when you hire new employees, you tell them what to do, you tell them how to do it, and then they don't do anything you tell them to do? If you're frustrated at this, then give me just the next couple of minutes and I'm going to break down 3 simple steps on how to get your employees to do what you want them to do. Now, this strategy works for both new hires and when you're trying to up-level your business and organize your systems and processes, and you're trying to get your employees to adopt the new way of doing stuff. So it's the exact same process, whether you've got an employee that's on the day for one day, or you have an employee that's been there for years and you're trying to teach an old dog new tricks. I'm Liz Chism, and I help contractors just like yourself grow your business with the right processes and the right team so you can have profit in your pocket and time with your family. Now, in this video, like I mentioned, I'm going to break down these 3 simple steps that will take to get your employees, whether they've been there for a minute or been there for years, to follow what you want them to do. Now, this is the key to scaling, because you cannot scale everything on your own. At some point in time, you're going to max out in time, you're going to max out on capability, you're going to max out on just bandwidth to be able to grow your business. Yes, you can get more efficient. Yes, you can have systems in your place. Yes, you can have software programs that will help automate stuff. But at some point in time, you're going to hit the ceiling. And when that happens, you're going to have to hire. Most people are very frustrated with hiring, and they either complain that there's no good help anymore. They complain that the help that they do hire is no good, and they are frustrated because these people just don't want to work these days, so it seems. And so this video is really going to break down how to actually work through all that. And the first thing that you need to do is let them know the why. Why is this important? Why do you need to follow things this way? Why are you doing this? People want to know that they are actually contributing to something more important than just this laundry list of to-dos that you have them to do every day because they're your minion and you want them to do all these things. If you have that mentality, then you're going to constantly be micromanaging your employees, constantly be in a command control environment, and you're really going to stay stuck as the bottleneck in your own business. And so you have to let them know why. Now, most contractors don't have a big enough why that their employees will actually want to follow them. If you're like, hey, I want you to do this because, well, why? It's important. That is not a good enough why. When I coach my contractors in this, I have to help them say, okay, I want my business to actually be here. I want to be double where it is. And I want to be the best known contractor in the area. So if we're at this standard, what do we need to do to get there? I need you to follow this SOP, and I need you to do this. And I need you to make sure that you're documenting everything at the end of the day, and you're putting everything in our project management software. And like all these little things lead up to what we are becoming as a business. And so when you give them this big enough why of what are they helping build, and guess what? When they help you build this big business, and maybe it's not big as in a ton of employees, maybe it's just big in the profit sense of the term, because things are so streamlined, money's not slipping through the cracks, and you actually have profit at the end of the day to go invest or to go work on other opportunities. Most people are missing out on opportunities because they don't have the profits there to even do anything about them. And so they're just grinding out every single day. And so I want you to think about this before you go and say, hey, I want you to go do this, and this, and this. Before you go do that, be like, okay, I'm going to share you with this process, and I want you to get to this idea of why, and I want you to do this. In fact, a lot of times I tell my contractors, I'm like, blame me. Say, hey, I just hired a systems coach, and this is what she's telling me to do, so this is what we're going to do. Like, that's a big enough why that it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll do this until we kind of figure out something else. And so they start having that little bit of momentum, and they can start saying, wow, actually it's helping. Oh, wow. Trust is being built. Oh, wow, we're closing more jobs. Oh, wow, the business owner's not so stressed anymore because there's consistency and there's reliability and there's a cadence to everything that's going on. And so you want to make sure that you have a big enough why. Now, the second thing that you want to do is you want to see this from their perspective. And this kind of goes into a big why, but a lot of times we just dump processes on our employees' plate, or we dump how we want things done, and we don't actually have that feedback there. So we just dump and run, and we assume that since we told them how to do it once, that they magically know how to do it perfectly the first time. Even if we have an SOP, even if we have a video, everybody has different learning styles. And so if you just dump and run, you're not actually having that feedback of somebody with boots on the ground doing the thing that they're doing. And so you want to actually think about, what is it going to feel like from their perspective? If I was an employee and my employer handed me a stack of paper and said, here's our new process for X, Y, and Z, and then they just dumped it on me, and I'm like, okay, cool. So, but what's wrong with my other process? Why should I change processes? Like, what's going on here? And so when you think about it that way, you're actually creating so much confusion that people lose trust in the influence. Now, there's a book called Amplify Your Influence, and it really talks about how employees want that security. Employees want the stability. That's why they're an employee. They'd go become an owner if they actually didn't like stability, but they want stability. They want a paycheck every Friday. They want that consistency and that predictability. And so when you're constantly throwing on an SOP or changing this way or doing it that way, and you're getting no feedback from them, then they have confusion. They don't understand what's going on, and you've lost influence over them. And so when you actually think about this from their perspective, you can go, oh, wow, I'm really confusing them. Oh, wow, I'm actually overwhelming them. And then you can start adjusting how you do things. Because if you can influence them versus command control them, that is when they actually take ownership of their responsibilities and they move forward in doing the things that you want them to do without you micromanaging them all the time. Another point I want to make with all of this is that people have different learning styles. If you handed me a piece of paper that said step by step on how to do something, I'd probably have a really hard time doing it. I have been tested and I'm a kinesthetic learner. I literally have to do it step by step, with my hands moving, with my brain working for me to actually know how to do it and do it. And once I do it once, I'm good. But if you were just to hand me a piece of paper, I'd be like, whoa, what is this? And it would take me a really long time to go through every single line and step by step follow it. This is why some people can look at something and they can get it. Some people can hear something and hear you just jabber away on how to do it and they can see it in their head and they're like, oh yeah, totally get it. And some people have to actively do the thing in order to do it. So if you have an employee that's just really not getting it, I want you to try a different learning style and see if that will help them. Now, sometimes there's an ability side of things and sometimes there's a skill side of things. I always like to hire for ability and not so much for skill. So that's one of the reasons why I use the Working Genius assessment, because it helps me see what their abilities are and then I match tasks to that versus saying, okay, you know how to swing a hammer, so therefore you're a foreman. And it's like, okay, well, maybe they don't have the management style to be a foreman. Maybe they're a better crew member. Or maybe they do have the ability to organize schedules and people and rally everybody behind the job schedule, that maybe they're a better project manager than just a foreman. And so understanding what their abilities are versus what their skills are and how they learn will help you tweak and modify your processes and how you train somebody. Because guess what? If you're hiring correctly, you need to be hiring people that are not like you. So if you learn visually, you probably should be hiring people that learn differently, because you want a variety of people on your team so that way you can grow. You don't want spitting images of yourself and just to clone yourself, because you're going to clone your strengths and your weaknesses, and you really want to hire for your weaknesses. Which leads me to point number 3, and that is that you have to start with the end in mind and work your way backwards. And the reason you have to do that is because it's much easier to decide what that end goal is and have a few different paths to get there versus trying to have all these micromanagement pieces that go up to some vague goal that nobody really knows about. The way I like to explain this is that if I were to write down everything that, let's say, a crew member should do on the job, they need to go get the nails from this box and they need to put the nails here and they need to do this thing and they need to do that thing. And there's all these little tasks. We miss the first point, which is the whole why behind everything. And we miss the second point because they're like, what's the point in all of this? And they don't actually learn that way. And so they don't see what they're building. And so I like to go, okay, by the end of the week, this needs to be done. We need to hit these budget numbers and we need to hit these labor hours or less for this job to stay on schedule and for things to be complete. And so when you start saying, okay, here's where we've got to be by the end of the week, or here's where we have to be by the end of the day, and then we work our way backwards, that can look slightly different and it gives people the flexibility to feel like they're in charge. When they've helped build this processes, when they're in charge, and then they give feedback to you saying, hey, I did it this way and we got our numbers. In fact, we actually were done an hour early today because we hit all the markers that we wanted to hit. That is when you don't have to micromanage and you can just take that step back and go, wow, they know how to do their own job. And so I don't want you to face a new employee or a new hire, or even face your business wanting to do all these systems and processes and try to pull along these old timers that you've got in your business for the last 15 years and go, hey, here's all these new processes, and dump and run. That is not what we're doing right here. We are first of all explaining why we need to tell them the why. Why is this important? Why do they need to do this? Why is the way that they're working or the way that they're doing things not working? And what metrics are we needing to hit? Which is why we need to think things from their perspective, because if they're confused and they don't have trust in you, they will not be influenced by you, which means you will always have to just command and control them instead of influencing them to do things the way you want them to do, because that's what they want to do, because they respect you as a leader. And then we need to start with the end in mind, meaning what are those metrics that we need to hit, and then how are we going to hit them? If you start with the how first and then go to the what, you're totally going to miss the mark on this. But if you start with the what are we going to aim for? What is that goal? And then work your way backwards on the how, then your employees actually are empowered and they will follow what you say. If not, they'll actually have better suggestions and give you feedback on how to make your ideas or your systems even better. And that is the magic of how you can step out of the day-to-day operations and get your business to run without you being the bottleneck.